So I thought a lot about how I wanted to start off this talk today, and I decided to start with a simple question. As a man, am I allowed to talk at a TEDxWomen's event? I mean, seriously, I know that sounds kind of funny, but that's the thought that popped right into my head right when the organizers approached me about this event. I mean, I don't have any expertise in gender equity issues, right? But I do have a passion about it, and I want to help to solve the problem. That passion probably started with my mom and dad. They were both full-time workers. They both worked nights for a lot of the time when I was growing up and my brother and sister were growing up. So they raised the three of them. My dad was cooking a lot of the meals, doing a lot of the cleaning, as was my mom. They had a 50-50 partnership before people even really talked about that, right? Today, I have a wonderful wife who's a successful psychiatrist. She has her own private practice. I have a spunky 7-year-old daughter, and I have a bunch of amazing female friends, colleagues, family members, and I want them all to be successful, right? And I know that they're not. And I'm trying to figure out, how can I help? And so that voice was in my head, but then there was another voice in my head. This voice was quiet but persistent and was asking some other questions. So there was that first voice, and I was saying, of course I should present here, right? But then there was a second voice that was saying, am I intruding? Am I inhibiting the conversation that you guys want to have? I mean, is this a conversation that I should be a part of? Am I being presumptuous? I haven't written any books on this topic. Am I being presumptuous to stand up in a room of mostly women and talk about this issue? Well, wait a minute, hold on. Are there going to be any men here? It is a women's event, right? I see a few, so we're good. But am I going to be the only dude? Right? So I bring up this story because there's all sorts of opportunities that I have as a man to step up and help with some of those unconscious biases and try and take those opportunities and try to help. But the path isn't obvious. Let me give you some more examples, right? We talk about a women's event like this. I go to industry events, I go to company events. Invariably, there's a women's networking event. Should I go? It's okay if it's women's only, but it never says it on the agenda, and I don't know what the protocol is, right? So some I've gone to, and I've had a great time. It's been great to participate in that dialogue. I've been at others where I've taken a pass. I didn't know what the protocol was, and I'm sorry I missed that opportunity, right? Talking about building a 50-50 partnership at home. You know, my wife and I, we both work. When she went back to work in a high-stress residency program to study to be a doctor, you know, they approached her right off the bat, her employers, and said, how are you going to find that balance with the child care and your work? What can we do to work with you? You know what folks asked me when I got back to work? How's your wife doing? How's your daughter? Can I see some pictures? Right? But honestly, no one came to me and said, hey, Frank, how are you going to build a 50-50 partnership at home? How's that going to work, right? And that's okay. I had the courage to step up and say, here's what I'm going to do. I need to leave at 5:30 every day. I'm going to set an alarm. I talk to my supervisor. I talk to my employees, and that's what we did, right? But I had to have the courage to step up and do that. And you know what else? I manage a lot of people. I've never talked to one man who's had a kid about that same issue. So bad on me as well, right? Third example, diversity councils. Every company I've worked at has a diversity council that's trying to build inclusion, trying to help the gender equity issues. Look at me. Okay, look at me. I'd love to be part of these diversity councils. Not only am I a man, but I'm a middle-aged white man. I'm about as non-diverse as it gets, right? That's the one audience I can walk into where I'm the outsider, right? And I've avoided applying for those, right? Because is that really my place? I do have a passion for it. I'd love to be part of the issues, part of the solution, but is that my place to step in that regard? So these are just some examples. You know, as a man, I have some choices. I can choose to either, listen, I got it good. I'm not complaining, right? As a man, we know we've got a lot of advantages when it comes to those unconscious biases. And I can either maintain the status quo or take the opportunity to rock the boat, right? And I don't want the status quo. I want to change it. But trying to find the path, when I take those actions to rock the boat, is what I'm doing productive? Is it going to be welcomed when I do it? Or did I maybe make a misstep with what I did, right? So I chose to rock the boat today and be here, all right? And I have some suggestions for folks in the audience on how they can rock the boat as well, okay? So first, for the men in the audience, the first thing I would say is listen. More often than not, we are the ones who are leading organizations, right? And that's something I think all of us who are in this audience want to change. So when it comes to women in the workplace, hire them, promote them, include them, empower them, mentor them. It's on us to help with that, right? And in the 21st century, it's not only the right thing to do, it's a business imperative. Because I'll tell you what, my daughter is going to grow up, and real soon she's going to be getting a job. And if you don't hire her, somebody else will, and she's going to kick your ass. So the other thing is what Kristen talked about. You know, I'm a super nerd. I'm an actuary. I have all these project plans, and I have goals, and I have strengths and weaknesses. I do Strength Finder. Why don't we do that at home? Why don't we do a little bit of that at home where you talk, I talk with my wife and we sort of say, hey, what are all the tasks that we have to do to build this partnership that we want to have? Why aren't we writing that down and just talking a little bit about where are we right now? There's so many hidden tasks that either of us is taking on that the other person doesn't know about. Write it down. So I use that nerdiness myself. I hope you guys do that as well. The third thing for the men in the room, take the opportunity like you did today, join those conversations. Find out what the issues are, find out how we can fix them. For the women in the room, I have a few things to think about as well. Now, this is a phenomenal event, but I have a question for you. What if each of you who had to apply for this, right, you probably told a couple of friends about coming to this and maybe brought a friend with you. What if each of the women in this audience had invited one male friend, male family member, male colleague, to be part of this conversation? Not to say that a women's only event or this event has any problems with it, but what else could we achieve if we had done that? And this room was 50-50 men and women, trying to figure out the solutions, okay? Second things, women in the workplace. When the man steps up and tries to rock the boat, I'm not always sure. When I walk into that networking event, am I supposed to be here, right? There's more women than men in the audience. So when a colleague comes up to me and just says, hey, it's great that you came. It's great that you came and supported us, right? How powerful is that? It really is. That matters. So letting us know when we step up that you appreciated that, that really means a lot. The third thing is on the home front. And this is for the moms in the room, and the way I put this is let dad take a turn, okay? And I'll illustrate this with a simple example. My daughter, she gets hungry. She says, I want a snack. I want a cheese quesadilla. So my wife, phenomenal cook. I am a terrible cook, okay? So she usually does the cooking. But in this case, I can do a cheese quesadilla. That is not that hard, right? So I say, honey, I got this. Go grab your Kindle. Go relax. I got the quesadilla. She stays there. She doesn't leave, right? So I get the stuff out. She's not sure I got all the right stuff out. I didn't oil the pan right. All of a sudden, I'm getting a lesson on how to flip a spatula. I can operate a spatula, right? So I could have maintained the status quo. I could have said, hey, there's a football game on. Let me go, right? And go back into the living room. I elbowed her out. I was like, get the heck out of here, right? So I would just encourage you, they call it the maternal instinct for a reason, right? You guys have the maternal instinct. It's awesome, right? But I would just ask you to kind of hit the pause button on it every once in a while and let us take a chance. Now, that quesadilla didn't taste as good to my daughter as the one that my wife would have made, for sure. But she wasn't poisoned. She survived, right? Okay. So just to wrap up, it's easy to talk about these issues here, right? We're amongst like-minded people. Out in the real world, the elbows are up. It's tough. It's more uncertain. So I have a simple question, like I started off. I have a simple question for all of you. As a man or a woman, what are you going to do to rock the boat? Not today, but on Monday. Thank you very much.